Greetings, everyone. Nate the Nerdarchy here from Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with a nerd.
Nerdarchy is Ted.
Today we're talking about this GM 911 Minotaur chase in a sewer.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
All right, so Joshua has given us a really interesting mini game to develop, and it's a GM 911. And
so we'll put his email down in the description below. If you happen to have a GM 911 or a viewer suggestion, best way to send those to us is nerdarchy@gmail.com. And if we can get to it, we'd love to field those questions for you.
So the general setting for this is they're in a sewer.
Mm-hmm.
The party's adventuring, and they come upon a Minotaur, which is kind of like the big bad.
Right.
But it's a situation where you're encountering the Minotaur. He's got his own thing going on down there, and you've just notifying him to your presence, and it's kind of a situation where there's going to be a chase happening, or he wants to create a situation that will make a chase.
So first and foremost, you have to properly set the scene. He wants to have it where the players are forced to run away from this thing because it is too powerful for them to fight. So the first thing you need to have happen is, before they see this Minotaur, they have to have the knowledge of, if you go down there and see the Minotaur, run for your life. And it could be an NPC that the party trusts that lets them know, hey, my party has already been slaughtered. It could be rumors that you have put out there that this creature lives and rules down there, and he does not suffer mortals to tramp in his domain. So you use your verbiage, use this whole situation wisely, because you need the players to realize before they see this guy that if it happens, that they're to run.
Kind of like a scummier, dirtier version of the classic Minotaur in a maze.
Right.
In the maze, you get caught by the Minotaur, you're probably dead.
So I read this email and I was really excited. Josh, this is a perfect scenario, and I'm glad you brought this to us because I envision a whole lot of greatness that you could wind up doing. So first and foremost is they see the Minotaur, and there should be like some kind of very obvious lever that they can pull that drops a portcullis that starts the whole, we can run and it's not right on our heels.
Yeah, because you want to start setting up a buffer so that you can then shrink that buffer.
Well, so that you
do
can
the different things, move it around. Yeah.
So what I decided is this should be a video game like turn counter type of situation, and you give them that number, and you give them, put a die and have it facing them, and this is how many rounds away the Minotaur is. Convince them that their attacks on it are folly. If they decide to make attack rolls against it, if it hits their armor class, it's fine. Don't even write hit points down. Just, all right, I got that. And let them deal with it so that they'll understand that that's not the idea of what's going on here. So then, through twists and turns, you could run this very maze-like and have it be that every time they come upon an intersection, they can make a choice as to where they go. Whether you've mapped this out or not, inconsequential. But you want to give them choices. So you can have traps. Every trap that they come across, yeah, they might notice it. But are they going to stop and disarm it? Are they going to attempt to go around it? Or are they going to just barrel through, because every time that they stop as a group, that turn counter is going to go down. You don't have a minute to stop and disarm a trap. That's about what it takes. So unless your turn counter is over 10, that Minotaur is going to be on you before you're finished disarming that trap. So some things you're just going to have to go around. Some things you're just going to have to take.
And this would be skill-based avoidance.
Right.
Where they're going to be making ability checks or saving throws to kind of get around the trap.
Now, I would want to put in things where you can flip levers or, quickly destroy some kind of barrier that's going to send gushes of water behind you, or dropping further portcullises that are going to slow down the Minotaur. i.e., increasing that turn counter that they're away. Because you're going to be able to put things in like the traps, like the obstacles, and like encounters against crocodiles, bandits, and what have you that are down in the sewers. Not everything is gonna notice the party and say, "Well, I need to attack that." It might be the players who decide, "Well, there's something to fight. I'm going to go fight it." Well, when you stop and you fight, that turn counter goes down. Every round or every so many rounds, you want to reinforce the sound of what's going on with the Minotaur. If they drop a portcullis or they gush water, have that effect when you go to turn that turn counter up or down, whichever way. Give them what's actually happening. All right, you hear the portcullis being attacked. Slam, 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 and like it's denting metal. Everyone knows what that sound likes or has an idea, and give that tension building moments when the Minotaur bursts through those portcullises. Have that thing slam down, and you hear the splash. You hear the metal hit the concrete, and then you hear the as the Minotaur begins charging after you guys again. Build those tension moments, and you can have times where the pace of the Minotaur increases because you want to you want to increase that tension. So rather than that turn counter going down 1, have it go down 2, and not explain why. Just build that tension.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I would consider that rather than giving the party a turn counter, that you give each individual a turn counter, because there's going to be certain individuals that can take advantage of being faster. So, for example, the rogue could possibly get ahead enough that they could disarm something, or they could see a little bit of shiny things. So, like, oh, I recognize that as a thieves' cache. Somebody's been stashing loot down here. If I'm ahead enough, I might be able to risk stopping to kind of snag it. So kind of give those kind of um, things that might delay them for character reasons, where they might say, well, am I far enough ahead I can risk doing this activity, such as trying to quickly disarm a trap, or just get through like a locked gate, or snag a bit of loot that might be just under this little tiny disheveled bit here.
That's not a bad idea, but the problem is that rogue starts going to rush ahead, and they encounter that group of bandits that you put there to fight the whole party.
Well, yeah, there's that problem.
Yeah. So you have to be careful how you not only plan this as a DM, plan it in a way that your players, so that your players and you know how they're going to wind up reacting.
Or the rogue could run by, not every the guys pass a perception check, and then they're there for the rest of the party, and then he's got to go back and deal with that. Or he runs by, the crocodile misses him, and then goes, oh, there's more tasty things right there. So there's those kind of things that can slow up the party as a whole, and then the rogue's got to make the decision, or the fast character's got to make the decision and go back and deal with that, or kind of path find down in the sewer. So there's a neat thing that you can base this off of. There's the chase chart, and I believe the Dungeon Master's Guide, and we had developed urban chase, and we also developed sewer chase. I don't know, did that end up going into Patreon rewards or not?
I am not certain.
Okay, well, if it hasn't, then that's something that could be done in the future. But it was this neat kind of take on the regular chase tables, in which there was things that were going to delay you, and which things that were going to have you fall and falter. And those kind of things you can base off of the regular chase table, and just kind of, I would try and simplify it into that kind of turn counter that you were talking about, because I think that's way easier than being like, well, how many feet away from you is the Minotaur? It's like doing it by 5-foot increments would annoy me.
Well, that's why I wanted to do it more as the turn based.
Yeah, the turn counter.
And all right, you're a wood elf and you're a halfling. You have different speeds, and by a decent percentage difference. Especially if someone's like, "Oh, I'm a monk with mobility." It's a situation where some groups might want to stay together. Because that's how things tend to go. Well, yeah, I can run a lot faster than you. I'm a wood elf with mobility, and I've got,
monk levels.
Monk levels. Bam, I'm gone. Whereas that halfling who's just a halfling, he's got problems. So
Well, maybe the sewer's too short on the sides, but out of the water, so it's not difficult terrain.
So it's a situation that it's a lot easier just to do turn-based counter, and you're not moving on a standard grid. You're moving together as a group because you don't know what's ahead. If you get in thick with the Minotaur, you want to be able to support your companions, or if you totally want to, I'm gonna put this on a grid and I'm just gonna do. By all means,
Yeah.
I just felt that was the best way to do it cinematically and keep everyone together so that it becomes a group challenge as opposed to a individual. How can I handle this? How can I handle that? As you get to the end, when if you've planned this right, you should be having the Minotaur advancing so that when the end goal is there, the Minotaur is within sight of the party, and they're able to, if they've managed to do it successfully, get up and out of the sewers and have something to then be able to hide behind, so that if the Minotaur, for whatever reason, manages to get up, it's like, oh, well, they're gone. Grr. But I've at least chased them out of my domain.
Yes, and I killed those other adventures earlier. Now, a few RP things for this, I would say, is make sure that the party that gets killed previously, aside from this like one lonely guy, I would say those should be NPCs that the party knew at one point. Maybe they're another adventure group that has also dealt with things in a town or the region and are well known. You see them in a tavern.
And they're competent.
Yeah, then they're competent. Show them in the tavern a couple times. Like, make it known that, there can be some kind of relationship formed, at least camaraderie wise. We're fellows and we're in the same field. So we have some kind of likeness for interaction and stuff. So I would do that a few times before you're going to run this, so that it's more impactful and they understand exactly what this Minotaur is, because he looks like meh when when he just killed an entire adventuring party that's at least as competent as you. It doesn't look like it really took him much.
Right.
So I would include that, and I would also say that if you do it right, you can use the NPC that you gain for a bit as kind of one of the slower people, and they're kind of like the first to be destroyed by the Minotaur. So it kind of gives them a little bit of, well, we can sacrifice this guy that we kind of know but isn't in our group of friends here, to kind of just continue running.
Well,
and it depends on whether or not you've got if you have too many super good people that are going to be like, no, we must not leave him behind, and would rather so that's the issue. It depends on how everyone's going to react to that. But I could say, pull a little bit on the heartstrings a little bit.
Nate, you're dark, man.
Sacrifice this NPC as kind of I'm going to hold them anime style. Like, I'm going to hold them off. You guys go on. That kind of thing. So it really all depends on how fearful of them being killed by the Minotaur they are, that they'll just ditch him. So that's the last thing.
That's dark, man. That's dark.
I'm not saying they're doing it with a smile on their face. I'm saying, this would be like a loss of something.
That's doable. So, make sure you role play the Minotaur. You hear the sounds of it moving. You hear the sounds of it screaming in rage. Make sure you do whatever you can to build the tension of the scene on a regular basis, so that they're aware that this thing is right behind them. You can have twists and turns so that it's not easy for ranged combat to happen. It's a way to delay, or a way to stop your players from seeing that as this is a combat where I can run and shoot, because that's not the objective here. The objective is to get away from it. So anything that you can do that would wind up coaxing that, well, you don't have a shot. You don't have...
Oh, sorry, I didn't... With going along with that, unless it is domed ceilings, you're not shooting 5 turns behind you at a run speed with anything. I mean, unless it's a gun. You're not hitting a guy on a straightaway 150 feet away, because your arrow just doesn't have... They're just going to, off the ceiling and be done. Javelins, no, anything you could throw 150 feet, which I guess is only arrows at that point. Let's say, for how many rounds is that? 5?
Yeah.
So 5 rounds behind, just going regular speed. the ceilings aren't tall enough, so you can just shut that ranged action down right now.
Because you have to arc it.
Yeah,
and
a considerable arc for 150 feet.
So, yeah, you have a range, but legitimately, that's not the way it works. And remember, you're the DM. Somebody does something you don't like, doesn't work.
Well, I would be legit mad if someone would be like, "Oh, you can't shoot in here," and unless it was explained. Well, the ceilings are only 10 feet tall. They're just going to bounce like
Right, you can't
30 feet out. They're going to bounce.
you can't arc it. You might be able to get your short range, but you're not getting your long range because you can't arc it.
Yeah.
And you can't see the guy with the spell, so you can't shoot. And don't forget, you're underground, so how much light source do you have? Can you see that far? That's the other situation as well. You might be able to hear it, and you can take an attack roll with disadvantage and blah 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 blah. But just don't get into it. Just go have fun with it. And I love this design. I love this encounter. So Josh, if you run it, please let me know how it went, because I want to hear the feedback for the aftermath.
And if one last thing, if the players do think of some creative way of using a spell or using a situation that, we don't think about using things in sewers all the time. So if they come up with something nifty or interesting that's going to delay it, let it delay it.
Mm-hmm. So if you have any further discussion on this particular GM 901 for Josh, there's a great place to put those suggestions, and that's down in the comments below. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can also patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
So until next time, stay nerdy.